Nothing But the Truth. Hello, I'm Raj Chengappa of India Today and your host for Nothing But the Truth. Every week, I'll bring you insights and clarity on a major topical issue that matters to you without holding back on the truth. On January 22nd, I was at Ayodhya to witness the consecration ceremony of the Balak Ram idol, as it is now known, at the brand new Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. In my opinion, a single sentence from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address soon after the consecration ceremony was over summed up the epochal nature of the event. I want to play that for you.
हमारे राम लला अब टेंट में नहीं रहेंगे। हमारे राम लला अब इस दिव्य मंदिर में रहेंगे।
The images that statement evokes, what the Prime Minister said, our Ram Lalla will no longer live in a tent. Our Ram Lalla will now reside in his divine mandir. That imagery, from a forlorn tent to a grand temple, was a real powerful one. It had four major implications. The first, it seemingly brought to closure the century-old bloody struggle to build a mandir at what is believed to be the birthplace of one of India's most revered deities of the Hindu pantheon. Second, it was also emblematic of the kind of cultural renaissance that the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, led by Modi, and its mentor, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or the RSS, hoped to foster in India in the months and years ahead. The third, and political experts say, that the emotional connect the event generated among India's Hindu majority will certainly boost Modi and the BJP's bid to win a third consecutive term with a clear majority in the general election to be held in the summer of 2024, which is just a couple of months away. And the fourth, let's be clear, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will remain the prime mover, conductor, and the main yajman or patron of the spectacular demonstration of Hindu revival and resurgence. So in this episode of Nothing But the Truth, let's look at the big questions that the new Ram Mandir throws up. First, how will it impact India? And second, can this usher a Ram Rajya or rule of the just, as many BJP and RSS leaders said it would after the ceremony? First, a bit of background. When the BJP led by Narendra Modi swept to power at the center in 2014, the Supreme Court had been hearing the Ayodhya land title case filed by its appellants since 2010. These litigants had appealed against the Allahabad High Court verdict the same year, that is 2010, to divide the 2.77 acres of disputed land at Ayodhya on which the Babri Masjid had been built. Remember, by then, the Babri Masjid had been demolished on December 6, 1992 by a mob of car sevaks from various Hindu organizations who had assembled there in protest. It had led to bloody riots across the country, and the wounds had festered for over a decade and several more. In its verdict, this is the 2010 Allahabad High Court verdict, the court had decided to partition the disputed land three ways. Two parts went to Hindu organizations and those who had petitioned it, and one part to the Muslim organization that was involved. So in his first term as Prime Minister, Modi resisted immense pressure from the RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat and the Sangh Parivar to issue an ordinance to build the Ram Mandir without waiting for the Supreme Court judgment on the disputed land. But Modi made it clear to the RSS that a solution would be found only after the Supreme Court gave its judgment. Modi's perseverance and patience paid off when in his second term as Prime Minister, the Supreme Court, in a landmark judgment on November 9, 2019, concluded that the Babri Masjid was built on top of a pre-Islamic structure. And I'm putting that in single quotes. The court acknowledged the Hindu side's claim on the land. It then ordered the disputed 2.77 acres to be handed over entirely to a trust to be created by the government of India to build the Ram Janmabhoomi temple or the Ram Mandir. While condemning the demolition of the Babri Masjid on December 6, 1992, the Supreme Court said, and I'm quoting it, it was an egregious violation of the rule of law. The country's top court ruled that the wrong committed must be remedied. It ordered the Uttar Pradesh state government to give an alternative 5 acres of land in Ayodhya to the Muslim organization, and the court wanted them to build a mosque to replace the one that had been demolished. Soon after the Supreme Court's order, the Prime Minister appointed his former Principal Secretary, NPA Mishra, one of his most trusted aides, as chairman of the Ayodhya Ram Mandir Construction Committee. This committee would coordinate with the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra, or SRJBTK. It's quite a mouthful. This was a trust that had been formed under the orders of the Supreme Court. Now, NPA Mishra is a no-nonsense retired ISO officer from the UP cadre, and despite the delays and setbacks caused because of COVID, he ensured that much of the 3-story high temple complex was completed in time for the consecration ceremony, especially the ground floor where the Garbhagriha or the Sanctum Sanctorum would be housed. Now, to dispel the notion that Lord Ram was a calling only for those living in the north of India, in the run-up to the consecration ceremony, the Prime Minister went on a temple run both to the west and the south of India. He visited famous shrines in Maharashtra, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu before heading to Ayodhya. Modi's intent was clear: to reassure those who worshipped other gods that this was not a ploy to ram Ram down their throats. It was not a one nation, one God plan. On the day of the ceremony, and I'd been there, Ayodhya was transformed into a Vatican-like city full of music and dance in celebration of the event. The road leading to the temple was lined with performers from across the country singing and dancing to bhajans devoted to Lord Ram. Modi ensured that the ceremony itself struck the right balance between propriety and propitiation. So what do I mean by that? So while the Prime Minister, dressed in a gold kurta, remained the cynosure of all eyes, he made sure that other key figures were part of the ceremony. That was the proprietary part. This included the RSS chief, Mohan Bhagwat, UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, and the State Governor Anandiben Patel, as well as the High Priest of the Mandir. Political experts saw that as the Prime Minister's way to counter the opposition criticism that he, that is Modi, had converted the whole event into self-glorification and idolatry of himself. The opposition itself, by the way, was caught on their back foot when they were invited to attend the consecration ceremony. If they didn't accept, they ran the risk of the BJP accusing them of being anti-Hindu. If they did go, it would be endorsing the BJP's role in building the mandir. And that was a potent election issue. In the end, most of them, including the Congress, stayed away from the ceremony. They criticized Modi for politicizing the event and claimed that they would pay their respects at an appropriate time. Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik took the smartest route by inaugurating the total revamp of the Jagannath Puri temple complex, which his government had done. This was done days before the Ram Mandir event, and Patnaik established himself as an equally capable defender of the faith. Now let's see what kind of profound impact the construction and consecration of the Ram Mandir would have on India's future. Experts see plenty of positives and also plenty to be concerned about. Dattatreya Hosabale, the erudite General Secretary of the RSS, sees the Ram Mandir as a major inflection point in the nation's history. Hosabale told me, and I quote him, and this was just before the ceremony of the Ram Mandir's consecration, and he told me this, and I'm quoting him: the whole movement of Ram Janmabhoomi was started to strengthen national unity and self-respect, and to restate the civilization aspect of our nation. What we are seeing on the horizon is a new civilization paradigm for the modern times based on our cultural heritage. The very word Ram is unifiable in all strata of society and all religions within Bharat. Close quotes, that is what Hosabale told me. It is significant that Hosabale and the RSS now talk of a new civilizational paradigm. The RSS has always held that an Indian nation without its cultural moorings would be like a boat adrift in troubled seas. Hence, the advocacy of a Hindutva, which the RSS broadly defines as a revival of India's Hindu identity based on the inclusivity of its spiritual traditions and its wealth of value systems. Now, the genesis of the Mandir agitation lay in trying to get rid of what the RSS called the main symbols of what was perceived as India's subjugation and cultural repression for 1,000 years preceding India's independence. This included both Muslim invaders and Christian colonizers before India gained independence. So the erstwhile Babri Masjid in Ayodhya, the Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi, which is now in the news, and the Eidgah Mosque in Mathura were seen as the prime examples of how Hindu temples had been destroyed and converted into Muslim places of worship to crush Indian culture. RSS ideologue Sunil Ambekar terms that particular period with a Sanskrit term called Smriti Bhramit. Roughly, that means a phase of history marked by a distorted or misplaced memory of a nation's culture and values. And he told me, and I'm quoting him, "We all had suffered from a collective amnesia. Now there is a cultural awakening. Our main tattva or principle is unity within and how we connect with our cultural ties. Though ancient, the Ram Temple movement has become one of the major connecting points of our culture and a symbol of modern India." That was Sunil Ambekar telling me his views on the entire Ram Mandir and its impact across. Apart from the Ram Mandir, there were two other major instruments that the RSS saw as essential for the cultural revitalization of the country. One of them was the abrogation of Article 370 that gave Jammu and Kashmir India's only Muslim majority state and autonomous status. The other was the need for a uniform civil code or UCC that will not discriminate on the basis of caste, creed, religion or community. Now, in his second term, Modi has been able to fulfill two of the RSS three major objectives. The abrogation of Article 370, as we all know, he did in 2019, and the construction of the Ram Mandir at Ayodhya, which we all just saw. The Modi government also passed the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Act in 2019, which banned the practice of triple talaq. In doing so, Modi made a major move towards establishing a UCC or Uniform Civil Code, and it also saw him win support among the Muslim women. Importantly, all these three RSS goals had been achieved using legal means and cleared by no less than the Supreme Court of India. Also, Sunil Ambekar is clear that the RSS will not participate in movements for Mathura and Kashi as it did for the Ram Mandir. And he told me there is a routine legal process on that that can deal with such issues. Now, this is a significant statement as recently the findings of the origins of the Gyanvapi Mosque has been made public, which the Archaeological Survey of India did. It had been made public by the lawyers who had petitioned the court. Of course, it is now to be seen how the RSS and the Sangh Parivar would proceed on the two ongoing disputes, the one in Kashi and the other in Mathura. Meanwhile, many political experts are uncomfortable with the blurring of lines between spiritual and temporal powers that was seen particularly at the Ram Mandir consecration. They see the strengthening of Mandir politics as a blow to India's secular ethos. Political activist Yogendra Yadav believes that the Mandir movement, and I'm quoting him, and this is in quotes, is a conscious attempt to create a homogeneous Hindu political community that has never ever existed in this country. It is an astoundingly brilliant attempt, but also diabolic. It's the first attempt to reverse the relationship between the state and dharma. It's the first attempt to colonize Hinduism by political power. Close quotes, that was Yogendra Yadav criticizing the move to combine both of that, dharma as well as the state. This intertwining between the state and religion will continue to be a subject of hot debate and is not going to cease immediately. Though, when it comes to domestic politics, most experts have no doubt. They believe that the Ram Mandir will give a major boost to Modi's already strong prospects for a third term. But others, like ace political strategist Prashant Kishore, has a different take. Now, Prashant Kishore told me, and I quote him, "For all the hype and the hoopla, it will not add votes to the BJP kitty by itself. What the Mandir may do is result in a better turnout of BJP cadre to the hustings, which helps them increase their vote percentage." So I asked Prashant, what then will determine the outcome of the 2024 general election? Kishore told me it will be brand Modi, which has subsumed everything under it that will make the big difference. He went on to explain, and I'm quoting him, "People are voting for Modi. He's seen not just as a Hindu Hriday Samrat who evokes nationalist pride, but also someone who has brought India laurels on foreign policy and who takes care of the poor by his welfare schemes." Close quotes on this. Now, according to Kishore, brand Modi has 4 trump cards, and I'm outlining them. First is Hindutva, second is nationalism, third, the beneficiaries of his welfare scheme, and fourth, an aggressive BJP cadre. The BJP has already sensed the mood of the electorate, and more than Mandir, will project Modi and his government's achievements in election 2024. Union Parliamentary Affairs and Prime Mines Minister Prahlad Joshi told me that while the Ram Mandir is a major achievement, it is not the BJP's whole agenda. According to him, and I'm quoting what he told me, he said, "The BJP's focus is on development, the leadership of the PM, the image of India, lifting over 250 million people out of poverty, good governance, and corruption-free and a stable government." That's what he said would be the focus of the election campaign. Now that brings us to the final question, which is the quest for Ram Rajya. Amish Tripathi, a scholar and author of Indian mythology, defines Ram Rajya as a state, and I'm quoting him, "where all are treated equal, where the weak are protected, and where dharma and righteousness are above all." Close quotes. Now, while that definition of Ram Rajya sounds impressive and as an ideal really worth achieving, its definitions differ, and in some senses, it's a vague promise that may leave voters confused who want immediate action rather than something in a distant future. Professor Narendra Kumar, Chairperson, Center for Political Studies, JNU, speaking to India Today, feels the excitement over the Ram Temple may not be sustainable for the BJP. Now, as Kumar puts it, and I'm quoting him, "Religion cannot solve the basic issues of roti, kapada, or makan," which is food, clothing, and housing. Now, close quotes, and I think Kumar is right. Religion per se cannot feed an empty stomach, nor can it be the glue that can hold a nation together and help it progress faster. It can be one of the binding forces, but cannot be the binding force. India only has to look in its own backyard to see how Pakistan, which owed its very existence to a religious principle, had to let go of East Bengal or East Pakistan within 2 decades of political dissonance and division. If you recall, Pakistan was separated from India on the basis that the Muslims cannot live as equal citizens with a Hindu India and required a Muslim state. And so religion became the prime motivator of the Pakistan state. That, as we've seen, have failed. Also, when the RSS experts talk of reclaiming India's cultural heritage, they talk or seem to talk of a time just before the Muslims and then the British subjugated India. History, however, shows that the marks of internal contradiction in the Hindu society began long before these invaders took over the country. Now, these signs included a rigid and oppressive caste structure, blind idolatry, and rituals to propitiate the gods that only a few privileged by birth were allowed to conduct. This and other issues, historians will say, led to the decay of Hinduism long before the British and the Muslims came to India. Now, let's not forget, Buddhism had elbowed out Hinduism as India's prime religion for over 1,000 years. This was mainly because Buddhism offered a less intimidating and more inclusive path to enlightenment than Hinduism had professed to do, and this is what scholars say. It was only in the 8th century CE that Shankaracharya revived India's ancient religion with remarkable success, and that success you're seeing across the country now, that Hinduism has come in a big way, whereas Buddhism has moved to other countries that we've seen. Now, there are further issues before we can get to a Ram Rajya that we are talking about. With the caste system still deeply entrenched and highly politicized in India, as we have seen, social and cultural reforms remain a work in progress, and plenty of work in progress. Meanwhile, the Ram Rajya that the RSS seeks, while everybody says it's a noble endeavor, is really an uphill one. Now, Hosabale, the RSS leader, the General Secretary of the RSS, who I mentioned earlier, acknowledges that when he told me, and I'm quoting him, this is in his quotes, "For such an ancient and big nation, Ram Rajya cannot happen overnight. It will take some years, perhaps even a generation to establish it. But we are on the path towards it." Close quotes. The recent consecration at the Ram Mandir will certainly help fast-track that process, but as Hosabale himself says, Ram Rajya is still a long way to go. For more details, you could read my cover story on India Today on the Great Hindu Revival. Thank you for listening to this episode of Nothing But the Truth. I look forward to having you with me next week. Nothing But the Truth.